There you go. Flav City family, what is up? It is Rose, Daddy, Art coming at you in the kitchen for an updated version 2020 style of the Dirty Dozen and Clean 15. Now, if you remember, Rose, last year, Art and I went to Whole Foods back in the day when we were allowed to go to the grocery store and filmed a Dirty Dozen Clean 15 video. There's a couple changes this year. They're excited. Obviously, they're very exciting, as Rose can tell you, but I want to go over them in depth because some of the Dirty Dozen, spoiler alert, what Rose is eating right now, strawberries, is scary dirty. I mean, we're talking so many pesticides. We're talking also poisonous gas in the soil that leaves it basically sterile. It's terrible. So before we get rocking and rolling, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, share. All those things are great, but the most important thing is a bell icon right around Rose here. Enable all notifications right below the video. That way, when we have 2 or 3 videos going live every single week or a live stream 2 to 3 times a week, you do not miss out. Rose, let's start with strawberries. Consistently the #1 rated Dirty Dozen produce, which is why Rose is eating organic strawberries. The thing is, all samples from Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen were tested after they were washed, after they were scrubbed, after they were clean. So after all that, if they still rank really high, it's scary. And by the way, all this information is primarily coming from Environmental Working Group, EWG.com. I'll put the link down below. They have amazing, amazing info. Strawberries are scary on the Dirty Dozen because 99% of strawberries had tested positive for residues of pesticides. Some 30% of these strawberries, Rose, not these because they're organic, had over, 10 or more different pesticides on them, and some had 23 different pesticides on them. So you really want to go organic, which, to be honest, right now, we're getting to the season. It's not that expensive. I got these at Costco. We used them to make that chia seed pudding parfait in yesterday's Costco video. Delicious. Other ones are a little more prohibitive in terms of cost, but it's not too bad. That being said, more importantly than being so dirty with pesticides on the actual strawberry is what they do to the soil. According to EWG, and I fact-checked this, poisonous gas gets injected into the soil to sterilize the field before planting the strawberries to kill every pest, weed, or living organism. That's terrible because I remember going to a farm called All Grass Farms in Dundee, Illinois last year. And the farmer there told me every time you sterilize the ground or if you spray it with a lot of Roundup, you're basically taking what's the soil's microbiome. Imagine like our gut have our bacteria. You're taking the microbiome or the bacteria of the soil and killing it, and that's really, really bad for the environment and for the soil. For strawberries, you really, really want to go organic. Now, what's funny is for the first time since I think 2007, they started testing grapes. They started testing raisins. They only been testing fresh grapes, and raisins actually came in, you guys, dirtier than anything else. Now, technically, it's not a fresh produce, but it's an honorable mention this year because I think with 99% of samples had at least 1 or more pesticide on there. So you really want to get organic when it comes to raisins because otherwise they're crazy, crazy dirty. And I love putting raisins in my quinoa breakfast bowl in the morning. Now, moving on. Spinach. Okay, I love baby spinach, and the funny thing is at Whole Foods, the 1-pound organic clamshell is honestly one of the best deals around. It's only 20 cents more expensive than Costco, and it's way cheaper than, are you done with this? No more? All right. It's way cheaper than like Target or even Walmart. So scoop that at Whole Foods if you're there or at Costco. The crazy thing about spinach, so conventional spinach actually has more pesticides per pound than any other produce, closely followed by kale. But more importantly, 3/4 of the samples of conventional kale tested positive for a neurotoxic bug killer that's actually banned in Europe. And what you'll find as we go along, a lot of the stuff we use here in terms of pesticides is banned in Europe, but it's still allowed here, which is very, very troubling. But that bug killer is a major, major no-no, combined with the fact that the spinach, conventionally grown spinach, has so many darn pesticides on there. You really want to go organic, and to be honest, it's not that much more expensive. Rose needs a nap. Let me go hand her off to Desi, and I'll be right back. Okay, let's move on to my beloved kale. The funny thing is, as kale has gotten more popular the last few years, the amount of pesticides used has gone up. And the reason why that makes sense to me is because it's a lucrative crop and the farmers want to protect their crop, so they actually spray it more to make sure they don't have any excessive loss. So you have to go organic. The cool thing is, ever since Amazon bought Whole Foods, they lowered the price on organic bunch kale. It used to be $2.99 back in the day. As soon as they bought them, they lowered it to $1.99. Now, I think about 3 months ago, they lowered it to $1.79 for an organic bunch of lacinato kale or green kale. Leave a comment down below if you know any place that's cheaper for bunch kale. I would love to know. Like, I highly doubt any place can beat that. The thing is, look at this kale. This is called lacinato kale, also called Tuscan kale, black kale, or dinosaur kale. If you could be my hand right now, you would feel it's actually more tender and more supple than green curly kale. I would not buy green curly kale. It's very unpleasant to eat. The lacinato kale is great, but you want to go organic because 60% of the kale samples were contaminated with residues of pesticides and possible human carcinogens. So they rank really, really high per weight. This and spinach have the most amount of pesticides versus any other produce. So go organic. Don't buy the pre-chopped ones in the bags because those have all these stalks in there, which are very, very tough and fibrous to eat. Go for the bunch and strip it yourself. It's really, really worth it. All right, let's move on to apples, something near and dear to Art's heart because after lunch every single day, he has an apple. I would highly recommend going organic apples, and they're really not that much more expensive. Desi, my favorite apple to eat, we usually eat it for dessert while we're watching a little bit of Netflix at night, is the organic Honeycrisp apple. Fantastic flavor. The thing is that EWG found that an average of 4.4 pesticide residues on a sample compared to non-organic had very, very little at all. So a lot of pesticides. More importantly, this was actually very, very surprising. After they harvest the apples and put them in storage, they spray something on there called diphenylamine. It's an antioxidant chemical treatment used to prevent the skin of the apples in storage from going brown and getting patches on there. And once again, in Europe, but we allow it. A little known fact about apples, the ones you buy at the store can be stored in cold storage for up to 6, 7, 8 months because they harvest them in the fall. And as long as you keep them cold, they stay fresh. There's no problem with that. But when they spray that chemical on there, that on top of the already high pesticide levels in conventional, you really don't want that. I hate the fact that Europe bans that along with a lot of GMOs, and we allow that. So go organic, and just so you know you're buying organic, look at the sticker. All organic produce at the market is gonna begin with a 9. So check that out and definitely make sure you get the organic apples. And then the rest of the Dirty Dozen list is pretty much the same from last year. You guys can check it out. I'll put that link down below. Tomatoes, cherries, which are expensive to buy organic. But what really gets me excited is the Clean 15 because some of these are surprising. So for example, cabbage, cauliflower, and broccoli. You don't have to splurge and get organic for these. The cool thing about all 3 of these produce items here is they have a natural chemical compound in them that deters pests, so they don't have to spray them as much. That's really, really cool. And there's great prices on this kind of produce everywhere. And I love them because these kind of foods are very fiber rich. And fiber rich foods are also called prebiotics. They feed the gut bacteria, and the gut bacteria and your microbiome are the backbone to your health, which is really, really cool. So keep that in mind. Here's an interesting thing. When you read this kind of article, the USDA only checks for certain pesticides. They don't look for all things, including herbicides like Roundup. So even though corn is always ranked 2 as the second cleanest vegetable in the country, it's not clean in my opinion because yeah, it has the husk here. It's protecting the corn kernels from being sprayed, but it's grown with Roundup Ready seeds, which I don't want to put that in my body, meaning you can spray the corn as much as you want with a Roundup. It won't affect the corn. It'll just affect the herbs growing around it or the weeds growing around it. No. You don't want to eat any Monsanto Roundup sprayed produce at all. So I would only get organic corn. I don't think it's in season right now, at least in the Midwest. But come July, August, you'll find it everywhere. So I would not eat conventional corn. What else is on here? Peas. These recently came in season. They're shelled English peas. And the reason you can buy conventional is because the inner pea is protected by the outer shell. So you don't have to worry about that. Whether it's fresh or frozen, you can get the fresh, and Desi loves to cook that in like a pea stew with a little bit of tomato paste. It's really tasty. What else did I want to talk about here? And the rest of the Clean 15 items are down below. It kind of makes sense that anything that usually has a thick skin on there, you don't have to buy organic, with the exception of broccoli. You don't have to buy organic because of that natural compound. And listen, there are studies and there are controversies about, is organic worth it? Studies show that when you eat more organic food, you have less pesticides in your urine, a lower body mass index, and higher fertility rates. You don't have to do it all the time, but for the real dirty stuff like the strawberries, the cherries, the grapes, the blueberries, the tomatoes, I recommend doing it. So just keep that in mind when you go shopping. Try to buy it at the most affordable places as possible, and that's it. So if you have any questions, leave a comment down below. I'm thinking about doing a farmer's market review, going to the farmer's market here in Chicago now that it opened up last week after the quarantine was lifted for that. Thinking about doing like a healthy summer picnic to pack for the summer. So you let me know if you want to see that. Like, subscribe, share. That's the only way this channel keeps growing. 2 more videos are going below us right now, but Art and I will see you very soon. Until then, we leave you like we always do. # keep on cooking, mad love, and peace. Later.